Today we're talking about the Ramayana. I'm going to probably focus mostly, because the Ramayana is long. It is a classic story in Hinduism. And actually, since we have one new person here today, you've been at,
Last one.
was it the last Washiva?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, okay.
Washiva.
All right, Washiva, yes. So right now in yogic mysticism,
Yes.
we are going through the stories that build Hinduism, essentially. Because yoga grew up in Hinduism, and contextually speaking, you gotta know these things, even if you're not a Hindu, even if you can have whatever religion you want, but to just understand the stories that back up what we're doing, the stories that give context to the practices. These stories, these characters, you can think about them as ways of being. They're parables. So you can use, if you get inspired by any of the characters, and that is the intention, to be inspired by the ways that they acted and reacted within their stories. To question things. It's a lot like sci-fi, especially like Star Trek, like really high concept sci-fi. It is about putting good people in impossible situations where there's no clear outcome that's like a good outcome, essentially, and seeing what they'll do. And then using that as kind of a thought experiment. How do we live our lives? How do we move through the world in a way that is thoughtful, that is wise, that is kind, when we're faced with all these situations? And in the Hindu canon, we have a lot of different gods and deities who all react differently. Shiva reacts differently than Vishnu. Vishnu reacts differently than Kali. Kali reacts differently than Hanuman. So we have a lot of models for possible ways of dealing with situations that may be harmful. So that's why we're doing this, and that's why it's so exciting. So let's dig in. Does anyone here already know the Ramayana, have read it or watched the movie? Read it?
Mm-hmm. And watched the movie, or watched the movie more than read it.
Was it the anime, the animated one?
I found it on YouTube. There was an animation. Yeah, they were animated. I had to teach a class about using one of the themes of the Ramayana. I tried squeezing all the themes into one class and it didn't work. You have to you gotta break it up a little bit.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I'm gonna kind of focus on Hanuman this time around, because it's long.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of abridged versions of it too.
Mm-hmm.
So like the anime is a very short, like very abridged version of what it is. There's also different versions, old versions of the Ramayana. Some people will say it's almost like fanfic of the original story. If you go to Thailand, they have a version of the Ramayana that's a little bit different than in India, and they do the plays. So it's mostly done as a play in Thailand. In India, you have it written down as this long epic. And then, of course, you have so much like Bollywood Ramayanas, and there's a really good, if you like this, Legend of Hanuman on Hulu. English subtitles only, it's in Hindi, but it's so good. It's so good. And it's long, so they do tell the whole story. But I'm going to tell you a story today that relates to the story that isn't in the Legend of Hanuman, because it's more of a Shaivite slant on this story. So this story is the story of Ram, Sita, and Hanuman. Ram is Vishnu. So remember, we've got the big three. We've got Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And usually if you worship Vishnu, Brahma's there on a lotus with, so there's two major sects, and then there's the Shaktas who worship Shakti, or the divine feminine. So usually this story, because Ram is an incarnation of Vishnu, the Vaishnavites, the Vishnu worshippers, this is one of their favorite stories. But if you're a Shaivite, a Shiva worshipper, you also, obviously, because it's cultural, love this story. And they even found a way to include Shiva in it. So I'll tell you that story in a bit. This is one of my favorites. So the story itself, Ram, Sita, and Hanuman are the main characters, which you all see here. And then Sita is an incarnation of Lakshmi. And you'll notice she does look kind of like Lakshmi here in this painting of her. And then it was written from the 7th to 4th century BC. So just because it was written down around those time periods doesn't mean that's when it was invented. The story was probably told oral transmission for thousands and thousands of years, possibly before that. Could have also just been, it was written down and it was a story that was told like just the day before. So it's really difficult to know with things that were just orally transmitted how long. And of course there's always the big fish stories, like everyone who tells the story adds 0 onto the end, right? Like how long ago, what the date was. So it's like a game of telephone. So we can't say for certain about any of this information, but we know that it's definitely older than the story of the Bible, the story of Christ, and maybe as old as 1500 BC. So that is 3,000 years ago. Yeah, it's a very, very old story. And so of course over time it's morphed and changed in ways that relate to and reflect as the cultures change. So Ram or Rama, just once again, the A at the end is Sanskrit. So in Sanskrit, every consonant is followed by A or another vowel. But traditionally, if it's just the consonant, it's going to be A. So you don't say M for M, you say M. You don't say K, you say K, right? So in Hindi, they drop that last A. So in Hindi, the modern Indian language, which developed out of Sanskrit, it's Ram. So you'll see Ram. If you see Rama, it's Sanskrit. If you see Ram, it's Hindi. Essentially, just think about it like everything gets shortened as time goes on. So the modern version is just a shortened version. It's like a nickname for Rama is Ram. So you'll also even see, like in India, they don't call it yoga, they call it yog. Because that's, yeah. So if you see yog, it's yoga, but it's the Hindi word for yoga is yog. So now that you also see like Shiv's liquor, you see that around town, that's Shiva. That's Shiva, Shiva's liquor. Mm-hmm. And it is the people who own it are all Shivites. It's a big Shivite community who own Shiv's liquor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, now Hari's down the street, Hari's Vishnu.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. See, when you learn these things, you start like learning more even about your hometown, even about your area and the people around you, and it all connects up. So Rama is the 7th incarnation of Vishnu. Really cool thing about Vishnu's incarnations, we'll probably get into later. They start as animal incarnations. So there's the fish, the boar, the lion. I believe there's a turtle, and then they become human incarnations, like evolution. So if you think about evolution of man, starting from animal to human, interesting that traditionally Vishnu's incarnations also started out as animal and then became human. So isn't that fascinating? Yeah. We also
just saying it mirrors us.
Yeah, it mirrors.
Gives us another reason to fully trust it.
And it's also interesting to think about like animism is just common. Like if you look at religions, like the history of religion, every culture starts with animism. Sun worship, animal worship, that sort of thing, and then they move to worship of man. They become anthropomorphized. Sometimes it's half animal, half man, and then it's fully man. And then there's half man, half God, like Jesus Christ, half man, half God. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of these avatars, like Rama, is half man, half God. And then you get fully man and fully God. Like some people say Jesus is fully man, fully God, etc. One and the same. And then you get abstract. Like last week we talked a little bit about the Shiva Ling, the Shiva Linga. Either Shivling or Shiva Linga. I can't mix up the two. But it's a formless idea of what God is. So we have this progression we always see into the formless God. And then we cycle and we work back and forth between them, and sometimes we use all of them at once or none of them, but It's an interesting. We also see cycles of polytheism where the gods multiply and there's many, and then monotheism where the gods cut off and we're just like, actually this god is this god. Let's just simplify this. There's only one now, right? Interesting how that just over time it just all morphs and it returns again and again and again. So this is the 7th incarnation of Vishnu. There are 10 incarnations. One of them is yet to come also. So they even have kind of the idea of the Messiah, the yet to come incarnation of a deity also exists. And he has the bow. That is the easiest way to recognize him so if you're looking at a statue and you're like, what god is this? I don't know. If there's a bow, it's probably wrong. If there's a bow and not much else, if he only has 2 arms, it's probably wrong. Vishnu has many arms. There's like different styles, so like the Thai Ram is pretty different looking than a Hindu, or a Hindu Ram, an Indian Ram. They do look very different, but you'll still always see the bow. It's a very important part, and that's actually Shiva's bow. So that goes back into, the bow of Shiva. So there's always these little places where people have found ways to mesh together, to come together and say like, yeah, this is your story, but also I can put a little bit of what I believe into it too and share. And that's some of the beauty in Hinduism, is that it's really about like sharing and growing and combining and working together and finding ways. So there's a deity called Harihara that's half Shiva, half Vishnu, because there were 2 sects that were fighting, and they were like, and then one sage had this brilliant idea and had this download to say, oh my god, Shiva and Vishnu are the same thing. So they built this statue that represented that, Harihara, and they said it's the same thing. And that helped ease the tensions in the community, because they were like, oh, I see how this is the same thing. And you see this happen a lot with the half and half deities. It's kind of like, black and white cookie in New York, right? Like, why have vanilla or chocolate when you can have vanilla and chocolate? Make everyone happy. So Rama's destiny is to kill Ravana, or Ravan, king of the Ashuras. Now, traditionally, Ravan is the king of Sri Lanka. So possibly was based on a real person who was the king of Sri Lanka at a certain time. Possibly mythological. It's kind of unclear which is the case, but likely based on true story, right? Because these places have been around for a really, really long time, so it is likely that this is all based on a true story. This is just a big game of telephone though, so we know there's going to be some details that got lost in the mix or that got changed. This is Sita, his wife, and she is always characterized as very simple, but also a lover of beauty. And she's courageous and she's strong. She has this kind of quiet courage that when she goes through what she goes through, she remains true to herself. She remains at peace with herself. So this is probably, this image that you see here is probably an image of her after having been kidnapped by Ravan, because that's the main bad thing that happens in the Ramayana. She gets kidnapped by this demon king, and she is refusing to marry him. So this is kind of her strength, and he's offering her all these things, he's tempting her, and she's like, no, I'm already married, I'm waiting for my husband, I know he will come for me, essentially. So for her, it's kind of a meditative journey. And then you get Hanuman. This is very gory. Warning, Hanuman's a little bloody sometimes. This is one of my favorite images of Hanuman that you'll see commonly, where he rips open his chest to prove that Ram and Sita are in his heart, to show that he loves his friends Ram and Sita so much that they are his entire heart.
That's very cool.
Isn't it? It's like, it's badass and it's sweet. It's like, that's really cool, and also I'm gonna cry. Which is, there's a lot of like, there's like blood and head chopping and stuff in these stories, but they're all symbolic, and they add kind of like that visceral element that kind of shakes you out sometimes. It shakes you out of that like, oh yeah, that's nice, they're in his heart, but oh no, they're literally in his heart. Okay, he means it.
Actions.
Yes. So Hanuman, in the story that I am going to tell when I get to, that slide, is an emanation of Shiva in some traditions. There are some people who say he's not an emanation of Shiva, and that's silliness. But most people are pretty okay with that idea, because it just makes everyone happy, you know? Holds Ram and Sita in his heart, as we see here. And this is a statue, actually. That's a close-up of a giant statue of him, so it's actually 3D. He has a mace weapon, so this thing here is a mace. It's a bludgeoning weapon, essentially. He's just very strong. He's a bludgeoner. So you got your strong man, and then you got your precision with Ram. And also, I didn't mention it, but Ram's brother Lakshman is also in the story. There are stories that have to do with Lakshman, but they're like kind of side stories and side quests. That's why I don't mention him so much. If you really enjoy this, learn more, read more. He's a I can't remember which of these is the long A. I should have written it down. Vanara? One of them is a long A. Vanara? One of them's a long A, and the other two are not. I don't remember which one was which. And it is important in Sanskrit if it's a long A or a short A. But that is how it's spelled, and you can look it up online to get the correct pronunciation, not from me. Either means monkey or forest dweller in Sanskrit, and usually thought to be kind of like a missing link. So if we take this from like this was actually something that happened, some people say that he was actually a missing link between human and monkey or ape, essentially. So something in between. There are some people who say that he was actually just a human being who lived in the forest, was a forest dweller, and wasn't a monkey at all. But
Tarzan story.
yeah, like he's kind of a Tarzan type character, possibly.
Is that why he has like the tail?
Yes, yeah, that's why he's got a tail, and he has a muzzle too, like a monkey face.
Oh.
So and there's another theory that goes that this tribe was forest dwelling humans, but they wore masks and tails when they went out to do things. Kind of like war paint or something like that, or like to hide themselves as monkeys. So there's a lot of theories as to what he really was. I encourage you to pick whichever image of Hanuman inspires you, whichever one you connect to, whichever one you can love, and love that one, because the image is just the outside. It doesn't really matter. What matters is, can you connect into that heart space? And he is a representation of strength, friendship, and pure devotion. He is a bachelor god, never marries. There is, in fact, I heard the story, I can't remember where I heard it, but a devotee goes to his guru and asks for courage, because he's a very anxious man. He's like, I need courage. And he's like, okay, pray to Hanuman. So, and when you say pray to, usually it's mantra. I'll give you a mantra of Hanuman, and you repeat this mantra to Hanuman, and become more like Hanuman, because he's very courageous. Right? And then 10 years later, this guy comes back to the guru and is like, I am so brave, I've done everything I want to do in my life, I have everything except I don't have love. I don't have a wife, and I really want a wife. And the guru's just like, well, yeah, because you've been praying to him. If you wanted a wife, you should have told me. Because he is not interested in that. He's kind of an asexual character. Yeah, so the guru gives him, I don't remember who he gives him after that, but he gives him someone else to pray to be like, okay, become more like him, and he has a wife, so you'll have a wife. So just, that's kind of the way way that we're thinking about these deities. We're thinking about them as energies that we can embody, as inspirations that we can work with. And you can work with them at different times. They don't get jealous. There's no jealous God. There is just loving God. And if you love Hanuman, Hanuman loves you. If you ignore Hanuman, Hanuman ignores you. It's not a big deal. Same with Shiva. You love Shiva, Shiva loves you. You ignore Shiva, Shiva ignores you. Not a big deal. All right. Now, the villain, Ravan. And there's even, especially if you watch The Legend of Hanuman, it's so cool. The way that because Ravan narrates some of the story as well, so he tells his story. And when you listen to him, you're like, I understand why he did what he did. I understand. And you see his ego. You always see, like, it's his ego. It's that big old ego that's making him do bad things. But he has his logic. He's logicked himself into thinking he's doing right. Mm-hmm. So he's very much the story of how logic can turn any wrong into a right very easily. If you don't pay attention to the ego, if you don't pay attention to that, like, bias that he has. So he's a devotee of Shiva. This is going to be important later. King of Sri Lanka. Often 10 heads. Now, most likely, he didn't literally have 10 heads if he was an actual human being. It is representative of, like, his 10 characteristics that he had. 10 ways of being. He was a duplicitous type of person. So his 10 heads are often lust, anger, delusion, greed, pride, envy, intellect, mind, will, and ego. Not all these things are things we would never necessarily say are bad, right? Like, intellect is a good thing. Mind can be good. Even pride, in a sense. There's some things that you ought to be proud of, that you ought to take some pride in the sense that you are doing them to the best of your ability, and you know you are. Even anger has times when anger is useful. Lust, yeah, we all have it. We all have kama. It's something that just exists in ourselves and in our minds. There are things we want. There are desires. So we don't necessarily think of these things as like fatal flaws or sins. We think about them as things that make him human. Things that make him very human. Things that keep him from divinity. Keep him from that divine peace. All of these things will take away your peace. Simply. And that doesn't mean it's bad. That doesn't mean it's wrong. But just to be aware of and to have these things more under control and to be more aware of these things in our own selves so that we can correct, so that we can move back, so that we can admit when we're wrong about things. He could never admit when he's wrong because his pride was too strong. He was too strong in all of these things. So, Ravan and his 10 heads.
I got a question.
Yes,
so
please.
Like who did he like envy?
Envy, okay.
Right.
So it's not envy of a particular individual necessarily. Mm-hmm. This is more of a general envy.
Okay.
This is like, I see, it's just the idea of envy. Like, I see you have this and I don't, so I'm going to get it.
Okay.
So for example, and I'm going to tell you about him and Shiva, he envied Shiva. He wanted Shiva. He envied people who had Shiva, so he took Shiva, essentially. So no one individual can have everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's always room for envy. There's always room for wanting more money, more women.
And then that's when the greed came in.
Oh yeah, that's when greed starts. Yep, if you've got envy, you got greed. Yeah, if you have envy and power, you get greed, right? Greed is like, I'm going to take because I want. Yes, very good question. Thank you. Any other questions about our characters so far that we know? All right. So, pre-story. This is the prequel to the Ramayana. How is Shiva Hanuman, and why is Shiva Hanuman? So the story goes. So, anyone here not at all familiar with Shiva? A little bit. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Shiva is all you need to know to understand this story is that Shiva is meditator, ascetic, one of the three, the most powerful, high. Mahadev, the great god, is generally what he's called. Very beloved by everyone, especially the Shivites. So the story goes that Ravan, the demon king, is a devotee of Shiva. Because a lot of Asuras actually are a devotee of Shiva. Asuras are demons or devils, because Shiva doesn't differentiate. So this is the interesting thing about Shiva that kind of makes him different from Vishnu in a way, is that Shiva loves the outcasts, loves the weirdos. He loves anyone. He doesn't care how bad you are, how evil you are, how cruel you are. He loves you. That's his job, just to accept and accept and accept. He is neutral to all, which means that if you love him, he loves you, essentially, because he's that neutral plane. He is just absolute mirror there. So this gets him in trouble in a lot of his stories. There are many stories of Shiva where one time he gives a boon to a demon who has meditated on him for a long time. And this demon's like, I want the ability to turn anyone into ash just by touching the top of their head. And she was like, cool, you got it. It's yours. You worked hard. You deserve it. Have fun, my son. And then the demon's like, awesome, thanks. I'm going to try it out on you now. So he chases Shiva to try to turn Shiva into ash. And Shiva has to call in his friend Vishnu and be like, Vishnu, please help. I didn't realize this guy's going to try to kill me too. And Vishnu's just like, oh, Shiva. And Vishnu becomes Mohini, which is his sexy, feminine incarnation. So Vishnu becomes a beautiful Mohini and appears in front of this demon, and the demon gets sidetracked. And Mohini says, oh, I would love to have sex with you, except your hair's kind of messy. Would you fix this? And then the demon goes to fix his hair, turns into ash.
Oh.
Shiva says, thank you, I appreciate you. And Vishnu's like, no problem, anytime, buddy, I got you. They go about their way. So this is how they meet.
I've seen a video on it. I've seen that.
You seen that one?
No, but it was one of the funny animation ones.
Mm-hmm.
It was on this.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
That
Yeah,
was fun.
I love it. So many stories along those lines. She was just too innocent, sometimes too pure-hearted. So in this case, what happens is Ravan is the greatest devotee of Shiva by his own idea, right? He claims this title. And he builds a castle for Shiva in Sri Lanka, because Shiva lives up in the Himalayas, and Sri Lanka's way down here. He's like, I want Shiva here. I'm envious of those people who have Shiva. I'm greedy. I want him here. So he builds this beautiful castle, and he invites Shiva and his wife Parvati to come live in this castle. And Shiva obviously does, because he's like, I mean, you did all of the things that you were supposed to do. You did it right. You came to me with love, and you truly love me, so here we go. I'm coming. So Shiva and Parvati set up there. But he doesn't allow Shiva to leave. When Shiva has things he has to do in the rest of the world, Ravan holds him tight. He traps Shiva and Parvati there. He doesn't want them to leave. And then Parvati's like, this sucks. I'm going back. I'm going back to the Himalayas, and I'm taking my husband with me. She also is kind of the Vishnu in their partnership. She's the one who stands up for the needs of Shiva, because he won't stand up for his own needs ever. And when she tries to leave, she's able to leave, but Shiva can't go, because Ravan has actually magically trapped him there. And Shiva's not upset about this. He's just sitting there meditating and he is self-absorbed in the sense that he is happy anywhere, he is okay anywhere, he is himself anywhere. The whole world is his home. He doesn't see a difference between Sri Lanka and the Himalayas. And Parvati's like, this is not going to work. You can't just hold him captive like this. So she goes to Vishnu and tells Vishnu what's been going on. And Vishnu is like, yeah, this is a problem. We gotta go save Shiva again. We gotta save our innocent Bholanath, the innocent one, the sweet one. from his own softness. So Vishnu incarnates as Ram, and Ram is a prince, and his entire dharma, his entire purpose in life is to kill Ravan. And the reason why he thinks it's because, Ravan is a bad guy, stole Sita, stole his wife, he has to get his wife back. That's what he thinks is going on. Vishnu, from beyond, and Shiva and everyone else know that it's because Ravan was just being a baddie, like not being good to people. And Shiva couldn't kill him because he was a devotee. He can't kill his own devotee. He literally had the power to. Of course he could, but he left him. He wouldn't. He never would. So Shiva then agrees to join this little play that goes on in the world with him. So Shiva incarnates as Hanuman. And he says, I will help my friend Vishnu as Ram to kill Ravan, but I cannot harm Ravan. So Hanuman does not hurt Ravan. There are actually many times when Hanuman could have killed him. And it's weird because when you're watching the movies or the stories or reading the stories, you're like, why doesn't Hanuman just off him right now? He's powerful enough, he's strong enough, he totally could. But he never does, because it's Ram's dharma. Well, why is it Ram's dharma? Because Hanuman is Shiva, and Shiva can't kill his devotee. He can't, because he loves them. Isn't that fascinating?
It is really fascinating.
So, little prequel from the Shaivite side of things. And now, for the next half of the story of the Ramayana, we'll talk about the Ramayana. Now that I got my Shiva talk out.
I knew there was going to be more.
Yeah, always. You always find a way to relate it back to Shiva. So, kingdom to the forest. This is the beginning of their journey. So, Ram is thrust out of his kingdom. He's a prince, but he's got evil stepmother syndrome, as many people in fairy tales have, right? And he's forced to leave because evil stepmother wants her son to be the king, so she starts some drama, and he's forced to leave for 14 years and wander the forest as an ascetic for 14 years. And because he's a good boy, he follows instructions, he does it. He leaves the city, and Lakshman, his brother, goes with him to help protect him and help make sure he can survive in the forest. And he takes his wife, Sita. And you see here, sometimes you'll see him in blue, just to be like, yeah, Ram is also Vishnu, who was blue. Sometimes he's just regular human colored. But that's an easier way, because sometimes when you see Lakshman, Lakshman also always has a bow, so it can be confusing if it's Lakshman or if it's Ram, but usually if they're together, then you'll have him either bigger or he'll be in blue, so you know which one is Ram. So they're enjoying their little hermit life. They built a little home and everything's nice and lovely, and then Sita sees this golden deer. And I tell you what, this, like the idea of a golden deer out in the middle of the woods, that Sita's like, oh, go off and get this golden deer for me, because she thinks it's beautiful, and she's Lakshmi. She wants to be surrounded by beauty, obviously, and that is kind of her job. Lakshmi's whole shtick is the world is a beautiful place. You should collect and show off beauty. Enjoy life. That's essentially her. So of course she's like, oh, there's a beautiful deer. I'd love to have that in my garden, and I'd love to have it as a pet. So Ram, being a good loving husband, is like, I'm gonna go get that deer for you. So off he goes, and because he's gone, when he's gone, the story goes that they hear his voice call out that he's in trouble, and then Sita sends Lakshman, his brother, go after your brother, something's wrong. So now Sita's alone in the hovel. And this is when, so Ram wasn't really in trouble. This was the Ashuras, this was Ravana's crew who were out tricking them. And this is when Sita is now left alone, and It actually, one of the lovely stories about Sita is, I may be getting the time order of the story incorrect, so don't take this as written, but the story goes that there was one of the Ashuras came to Sita as a beggar. And as a beggar, like with a begging bowl, and he was like, I'm hungry, do you have food? And Sita was so pure and kind that of course she gave him food, but surprise, he was an Ashura, and that is when he took her. So again, we have another interesting parable, kind of like to be kind and to be good, but also to know that at times that puts you in danger. But then that's why we have different deities. That's why we have a deity who is always innocent, who is always seeing the best in everyone. And then we have a deity who's just like, no, that guy's bad for you. I'm killing him, right? It takes all kinds. So it really is a lesson of don't try to tell other people how to be. Don't force your way of life on someone else, because someday their way of life might come in handy and might save you, and vice versa, right? Let other people be the way that they are, because that's what makes life rich. That's what makes the story move forward. If every character in the story acted and reacted in exactly the same way, it would be boring. There wouldn't be a story, right? Because, I mean, if Ravan was Ram, he wouldn't steal Sita. If Sita was Ram, she wouldn't be waiting here for Ram to go and get the deer for her. There's so many reasons why, and it's again and again, diversity is important. And this is about unity in diversity. Recognizing you're different from me and that's good. I want you to be on this side. I got off track tonight. Sita and the deer. So this is when Sita is taken by Ravan. And what I love about this, oftentimes in these paintings, people just don't seem that perturbed, especially the gods, the deities. There's a part of them that knows, like, this is supposed to happen. So she's literally being kidnapped by a demon who is flying her to Sri Lanka.
No, that's hilarious.
And she's just like, these things happen. Ram will rescue me. It's gonna be fine.
That's when you know you got confidence.
Yes.
I'm good.
Yes, and this is why I showed last week that beautiful image of Shiva underneath Kali, and he's just like, oh, you're so beautiful when you're destroying everything. That's that inner peace that you see. And this is really cool. I believe it's called a Vamana, but I may be wrong. This is his vehicle, Ravan's vehicle. And the way that the vehicles are talked about, some people read that as, oh, those are spaceships.
Oh.
Right? So
That's cool.
there is definitely a school of thought that I'm not going to say whether or not I'm a part of, because who knows really. But there's a school of thought that these are aliens, that they have higher technologies, or that they're human beings who had extremely advanced technologies, power of flight, planes, etc. There's a lot of people will cite things like Shiva being like self-born, Shiva having come from above and arriving on Earth, not actually being of Earth, but arriving to Earth. Same with Vishnu, not being of Earth. There are also different worlds that are talked, the different lokas. Some people say that's different dimensions, some say it's different planets. Who knows? We can't know. But it's fun to think about, right? It could be.
What do you think?
I don't know. My bias, I love aliens, so my bias is aliens, because I love aliens, but also I know that could be totally off base. So the truth is, I don't know.
We know nothing.
But I think aliens are really fun, and I like aliens, so I'm gonna say aliens. So that's my reasoning.
That's the most fun path.
Right? And oftentimes what the beliefs we choose, because we don't know, really, just choose beliefs that are fun. and let other people choose the beliefs that they find fun.
And it's not so far-fetched that there could be other
Yeah,
people.
it's really not. I mean, the universe is huge,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
not far-fetched. But then it also could just be different dimensions, or
Yeah.
it could literally just be metaphor, and it doesn't matter. Because what matters is the heart of the story.
Yeah.
What matters is that there's love there. Like I said, it doesn't matter how you think of Hanuman or what he looks like to you. If you can connect in to something about his spirit, something about his character, something about his love of his friends and his selfless devotion and his courage, Hanuman will work for you. Hanuman will work with you, and Hanuman will become you. You will become Hanuman. And it works. Ram and Lakshman meet Hanuman. So this is when obviously Ram gets back, and the deer itself was an illusion. So he was just like, that deer was not real. That was like a hallucination. And Lakshmi's like, yeah, okay, we're gonna come back, because obviously Sita's in trouble because someone's tricking us. So they rush back, Sita's gone, they see Sita being carried off by Ravan. And they're like, okay, we gotta go after Ravan. And there's I believe it's Garuda, the eagle, who tries to help, but it fails, unfortunately. And I believe this is that how he dies? There's a lot to this story.
I'm glad you mentioned bird though, because I remember reading about a bird. It was very brief, and again, there's so many interpretations. But yeah, I remember a bird in the story too.
It was Garuda, but I may be wrong about that. But an eagle friend of his does go try to help and fails, unfortunately. And then they're walking to Sri Lanka, a long walk through the forest, and they meet Hanuman and the other Vanaras, the other monkey men. And there's a whole series of that goes on there where Ram helps them with a dispute they've had with their king, essentially. So there's like a mini story. There's a B plot that happens. So the king that Hanuman loves, and the good king, essentially, the king that is a kind king, is in trouble from the king that is a, you know the story, right? There's a bad king, there's a good king. We help the good king win. And then Hanuman recognizes Ram as God and is like, now I'm devoted to you. I'm devoted only to you. And I will help you. And what happens here is almost like this magical love, this kind of devotion that happens, and it's so pure and so intense. It's deeper than a friendship. It's deeper than a relationship, like a sexual or romantic relationship. It's an unconditional recognition. Recognition that, and remember when I said all the way back here, I'm going to hop back to this slide because I love this slide and I didn't hop back to it again. You haven't seen it yet. Sri Ram asks Hanuman, "Oh Hanuman, how do you look upon me? What's our relationship? Like, what is this? What's going on between us?" Yes, let's have the relationship talk. Hanuman answers, "When I am conscious of my body, you are my master and I am your servant. When I am conscious of myself as a soul, then you are the whole and I am a part, like the ocean and a wave. When I have the knowledge of Atma, the universal eternal soul, then I am you and you are I." So 3 levels. And in between these 3 levels, there are billions of levels, of course. Right? There's never a 1, 2, 3. There's always a 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3. Right? There's always in betweens. But at these different levels of awareness, different things are true. If we can take this into every moment of our life to recognize that at a different level of awareness, something else is true than what I'm saying right now. So what level of awareness are we speaking on right now? Am I you? Are you me? Because if we're on that level, we can have a real talk. Actually, if we're on that level, we don't even need to talk. That's when silence comes. And if you ever have a quiet silence with somebody you really love, you're maybe on that level. I am you, you are me. It's just a comfortable silence, right? If you have a good discussion with someone, maybe it's because you're in soul and you're playing, you're the wave and they're a wave and you're playing together, right? And there's a dance that's going on, but you're all at the core the same. And then if you're on the body consciousness, if you think of yourself as the individual, that's when you then have hierarchical relationships, the servant and the master, the friend, the buddy comedy, things like that. The challenger, the fighter. This is even the level of hate. It's the level where, oh, I'm gonna fight you, I'm gonna hurt you. That's where most people are always here. Most people are always on an individual level consciousness. That's why so many people are uncomfortable with silence around other people, because they don't want to think for even a second that they could be comfortable in the presence of someone else's soul, knowing that it's their same soul, right? So it's sort of up and down through these levels all the time. It's the divine play.
I love that.
Isn't it beautiful? Oh. Isn't it gory? Isn't it visceral?
I got a question about that photo.
Yeah, which one? Hanuman? This one?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you remember when you said some people think he's half human, half like monkey and all that?
Yeah.
So are there other photos of him without the tail?
You never see him without a tail.
Okay.
That's a pretty important part of what he is.
So wasn't that already like justified, like, oh, he's half animal, half human because he has the tail?
There's a small group of people who say that they wore fake tails.
Okay.
And masks, like monkey masks,
Okay.
as part of their tribal stuff that they were doing. Like they were like, the tribe was very connected to the monkey, so they wore monkey masks, monkey tails, maybe they acted like monkeys, but they were fully human. That's, and it's
No, I had a question. I'll keep it to myself.
Oh, go ahead.
If that's all he has on, where would the tail be connected at?
Oh, where does he? So this is actually in this image.
I wasn't even saying anything. It's just like,
If it's a fake tail.
like where would?
In this image, he's literally half monkey and half man.
Okay.
Most artists will portray him as literally like monkey face with the tail and the body of a man.
Okay.
Most artists do. Some artists make him a little bit more monkey, some a little bit more man. There's always going to be play. There's always going to be difference of opinion. So if you look at Indian art, you just see that it's artist interpretations.
Yeah.
That's how they see him.
Yeah, it's how they see him. This is this one person's Hanuman. It doesn't have to be your Hanuman. But if you like this image of Hanuman, use that one. If you like another image, use that one.
Maybe without the blood.
Yeah, you could without the absolutely. There's plenty without the blood. You do not have to have bloody Hanuman. There's an image of him carrying the mountain from another story in the Ramayana, and that is one that people love for the strength of Hanuman, for the courage and power of Hanuman. So yeah, there's so many different ways to see it. And
I kind of like the blood. Well, like,
I know, I do too.
Well, like I kind
love
of,
blood.
I kind of like what it stands for. I think he's like my favorite because, like, look, I'll show you how much I care.
His
So,
devotion.
Right?
Yeah.
So
like seeing is
True.
definitely like I'll show you.
Yes, and this is why we love. Well, I say we as like the royal we. People love the image of Jesus on the cross with blood pouring out of his heart, and with the thorns and blood pouring down his face. People love that image because they're like, wow, that's visceral, that hits, that's real. I feel something. Or the fiery heart, literally Jesus' heart on fire. That's a more Catholic image. But that it is a strong visual symbol that makes you feel something, and it works. It touches you. And this is what's fun about Hinduism. Like, we don't care how we touch you. We just want to touch you. And there's so many different ways. There's so many different ways. Like, there's a goddess. Her head is totally lopped off, and she's just spurting blood out.
Durga?
That is, it's one of the Mahavidyas. Chinnamasta. Chinnamasta. Yes, which is, the Mahavidyas are an emanation of Kali. So it's Kali in a different form. Yeah. gore, blood. It's funny. It reaches some people. You know, it reaches me.
I love it.
And people are always surprised. Like, you're so love and light. Why do you like gore and blood? I'm like, don't know.
Maybe because I'm love and light.
Yeah, I need balance. I need contrast in my life.
Yep. Like how I look at it, it's just like, well, how I look at it, it's like, I don't know, showing people like you actually care could be like scary, and like sometimes it could be painful to even show like your real you. So like the blood and showing all that is gory and all that, but like we all been somewhere like take a deep breath in, everything's gonna be okay, but it's still scary like expressing. So I don't know, sometimes painful to like let it out, but once you do, like people embrace it.
But also maybe we should start expressing ourselves like this.
Yes.
Yes.
Like super radical.
To literally
So
rip your
dramatic
chest
and extreme,
open.
yeah.
Yeah, to show this is what I love.
Yeah.
And it's not violent. It's not like he's ripping up your heart and putting Raman Sita in your heart. No, he's like, this is in my heart. I'm gonna hurt myself to show you what I love. And isn't that what we do in our lives? We live our lives. We kill ourselves over what we love. We give ourselves to what we love.
That makes me look at it differently.
Right? Oh, I'm glad I could bring you around to the side.
Like now I like the blood.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Thank you for bringing that up. So this is a relationship of Hanuman and Ram in the different ways that relates to each of them. So Hanuman finds Sita. So what happens is because Hanuman loves Ram so much and trusts him so much, Hanuman becomes stronger than Ram. Isn't that crazy? Ram is literally Vishnu. But they come to a point where they have to cross the ocean, or part of the ocean, to get to Sri Lanka, because Sri Lanka is an island, right? So Hanuman says, oh, I can just jump over this water. I can just jump. They can't even see Sri Lanka. They know it's over there, but they can't even see it. And Hanuman's like, yeah, I can jump over there. No problem. I got you. And Ram's just like, what? And then Hanuman's like, you could also do it, right? Like and Ram's like, yeah, I could totally do it. But Ram's like, I can't do that. But Hanuman's like, yeah, I believe in you so much, and I have so much faith in you, my beloved God, Ram, that you'll let me jump over to Sri Lanka. And so he just does. He grows very, very large, and he just flies to Sri Lanka of his own volition. It's the love of Ram that lets him do this. So there's a story of a sage, and there's a female devotee of the sage who's been going every day to listen to his lectures, right? Every single day. And one day she doesn't show up. And the next day he scolds her. He's like, why didn't you show up yesterday? And she's like, I am so sorry. There was a flood and I couldn't make it because the river I usually ford was too flooded. And the sage says, well, if you really had faith in God, you would have crossed the river to come see me yesterday. And this is what sages say. You know, it's just the shit that saints say. And she's like, okay. And then the next day, or a couple days later, there's a monsoon. And the sage is like, oh, she's not going to show up. The river is going to be flooded again. And she's there. And he's like, the river's flooded. How did you get here? And she's like, well, I walked over the water like you told me to. So these are these stories of sometimes the devotee's faith is stronger than what they have faith in. Isn't that amazing to think about that? Like, Jesus himself might have been strong, but what gave him the strength to rise again was his faith in God. It wasn't that he himself was strong. It was the faith, it was the belief. So again, we see that Hanuman does a lot of stuff that he could never do before. He starts to remember who he is. He starts to unlock his full potential. He has 5 heads too, and his 5 heads are 5 different animals. And they do all represent something. I should have written it down, but I forgot to. But he unlocks all these powers within himself. All because he loves Ram. All because he has devotion. All because he has faith. And then he moves forward in faith and finds Sita. So he finds Sita, and he gives her the message that Ram is coming and is going to rescue her, and he brings the message back from Sita that she's safe and etc. And he also worships Sita, of course, because that to him is mother. So there's this lovely moment with them, and then comes back. They build a bridge, and this is really cool. The land bridge from India to Sri Lanka. If you pull up Google Maps right now and look at Sri Lanka and India and zoom in on the satellite version, and you can do this if you want to, you will see it looks like there used to be a bridge there. You'll see there's like this light, almost like sandbar, where the water is lighter between India and Sri Lanka. Yeah. So there was a bridge there at some point. Either it was a man-made bridge or it was a natural bridge. Who knows? But this is verifiable. Like there actually was a bridge. Just like we can say like with the flood, like yeah, there were floods that would end entire civilizations. So we can kind of prove floods. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. You see it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, like,
Wow.
So they build a land bridge, and Ram and all the people that have gathered to help him go, and they fight Ravana. And of course Ram wins, rescues Sita, returns home after the 14 years of exile, and becomes king. And this is when Diwali is celebrated. So if you never knew what Diwali was about, now you do.
This is what it's about?
This is what it's about.
Holy
This
crap.
is the most common interpretation of Diwali.
Oh my god.
Yes, there are a couple other stories that people link to Diwali, but this is the main one that people celebrate. The Festival of Lights, the return of Ram and Sita to their kingdom, Diwali, around October, November. It's a different date because they have different like months, but it's a different date every year. I think it's based on the moon calendar instead of the sun calendar. It's not important.
in Chicago, there's a temple, and I've gone at Diwali, and they open up the church to the public, and that you can see all the food that's being donated to the different gods and goddesses, or maybe it's a specific one. And they have like sand art and just like beautiful. It's just gorgeous. Yeah, and like each like in the temple is like all of these hand carved pieces. It's just precious. So if you're ever in the Chicagoland area, definitely worth a check out. I think you could just go in and schedule a tour. Yeah, it's really beautiful, and especially if you can go during Diwali, they've got like a lot of events going on. And, it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Really special.
It's awesome.
And what month did you go?
It's like October, November.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, come out. There are 2 temples in town. They're Gujarat temples, so they all speak Gujarati there, and I know more Hindu than Gujarati, so it's a little hard sometimes, but a lot of them speak English too. And they're very welcoming if you want to go and just learn more, and if you're open, they're all very kind, especially if you go during a festival, it's always fun. And then you can learn about prasad. So when they offer food to the deities, that food becomes the food of the people. So people get fed after that, and they feed everyone a little bit of prasad, that holy food. And I tell you what, blessed food tastes so much better. I will have like oranges, and I'm like, oh, these are kind of nasty oranges. Like they're kind of dry or something, and then I will offer them as prasad. And then I taste them again. They're sweet and they're juicy.
Wow.
I swear it changes.
It's like they energetically amplify the taste for you.
It does. It does. It is pretty magical.
Yeah.
It's a lot like the Eucharist. If you believe in it, if you have faith in it, you taste it, you feel it, you sense that, oh, this really is the body and the blood. This really is now blessed food. I am consuming Brahma. I am consuming Annapurna. I am consuming this energy. Yeah. All right, it is 3 o'clock. Next week, I think I'm going to take a look at this. I'm not sure exactly who we're doing next week. Does anyone have any Hindu deity that they would like to know more about, that they would like to volunteer for next week? You can just shout things out.